So I hope you're all doing well tonight, enjoying the lovely, lovely weather. Beautiful weather this month. Beautiful weather here. It just snowed in Philadelphia area where I don't really live. It just snowed the other day, 2 days ago. Can you imagine? April. So.
Okay, so I just want to say thank you so much, Venerable Amy, for coming to visit us again for the second time to Miami. We're very honored to have her teach again. She came last year, as she said previously. And thank you all for coming. Venerable Amy was ordained in the year 2000, and she was the director of 2 different Dharma centers in the US, Milarepa in Vermont and Vajrapani in California. She leads many retreats. She's written a book called Buddhism in a Nutshell. And as I said, we're so grateful to have her this evening. So
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much to Maria and Anna and for offering the space and the center there, the group that they're organizing now. And thank you so much to Jessie, who got me here after the car broke down. So we're all in pretty good shape right now. So I think everything is going really well.
If you can, I just remind you, if you have a cell phone, to turn it off for me, please.
I did want to ask if you can turn it off. And the reason is, if you put it on vibrate, and it vibrates, your mind's going to go there. So just kind of also out of respect for the person sitting next to you, or we will survive, I promise, even if they're off for an hour and a half or so. It's okay. And I'm sorry I left mine on, and the reason is I may access it at the end. So that's the only reason we might hear it vibrate, maybe not. Thank you very much. I'm just curious, how many people in here are doing a little bit of meditation, finding some time for meditation, like just trying to get a sense of, okay, so a fair number of people. Great. And if you're not, no worries. What I would encourage, and that's something I would say, is the topic tonight is about love and attachment. And next week, I'm also back and we're going to talk about the nature of reality. And I was just looking if the woman from the shop made it here. The woman I just met. Okay. Not yet. Okay, we'll see. I just met, sometimes I'm a walking advertisement for Buddha Dharma, looking like this. And a lot of times, people see this and get nervous and don't know what it is. You know, so there's a little bit more lack of understanding, and then we get a little afraid with what we don't know. So, but occasionally somebody comes up and recognizes and says, oh, a Tibetan tradition, Buddhist, and then they're interested. So I met a woman in a shop, and some people are genuinely interested, so I gave her some information. So what I wanted to mention in dealing with love and attachment, and dealing with any other issues you have coming up in your mind that are not working for you, and even the things, your qualities that are working for you, is if you can inspire things from your meditation practice, it's a hugely helpful situation for you. So initially, it takes a while to get it going. We don't know what we're doing. Okay, so people like me can help instruct you, direct you to books, and there's a lot of things online. But find something that works, and don't start with something unreasonable. Okay, so please start something short, 5 or 10 minutes morning, 5 or 10 minutes evening if that works. You can have a little reflection in the middle of the day. Okay, but the reason I'm saying these 5 or 10 minutes is that's reasonable to do that, to try that. To say I have to sit for an hour, I should have perfect concentration for an hour is unreasonable. Okay, and you're never going to do it. So we want something that's actually going to work for us. And then what it does is, for me, it's like coming home. This place for me to sit. Okay? And you make your own place. It doesn't have to be elaborate. You don't need a special table. You don't need the perfect candle. Okay? You just need to find time to sit down. you can sit in a chair. But the reason I like to sit like this a little bit is it exercises the body in this posture and makes the body familiar with this posture. So meditation is all about familiarizing your mind with positive mind states, attributes. Okay? And I'm sorry because I have a feeling the predominant amount of people here speak Spanish. So I'm sorry I don't know Spanish. I'm keen to learn Spanish. However, if I am saying a word that you don't understand, just put your hand up. If I'm speaking too quickly, just put your hand up. You can ask me what I'm saying or slow down like that. So from this meditation place, the word in Tibetan for meditation, we say is gom, G-O-M, gom. And you talk about a meditation room or a hall as a gompa, but it doesn't really mean meditation, gom. It means familiarize, habituate. So our process, and it is a process in Tibetan Buddhism, is familiarizing yourself with your true nature, virtue. So some of you may say, well, that's not the way I normally act virtuously, okay? But that's actually your true nature. And then what happens is that we have veils of obscuration that cover over our virtuous mind state or Buddha nature. Buddha, simply a Sanskrit word that means fully awake, fully awakened being. Okay. How do they get there? Through meditation, through study, reading, going to classes, delving more deeply. They say listening, reflecting, and meditating. That's our path. Listening, reflecting, meditating. Okay, so first you hear a first gush of something. For most people, it takes about 3 times till it goes in. So the traditional way the teachers used to teach, and they still do, they give you the teaching. At the end of the session, they repeat it. At the beginning of the next session, they repeat the same teaching. Usually by the 3rd time, it sinks in, right? So we listen, okay? Then you have to reflect. And that means you might leave here tonight, and you might just say, that thing she said about the such and such. You know, so you think a little more deeply. Then you meditate. That takes it to a deeper level. Okay, so we'll explore a little bit. We just have a short time tonight to talk about love and attachment. And this is the big one for us, is attachment, okay? So let's start, and now that I think we're here, have a little meditation. One thing I want to mention more about meditation, and I'll talk to you about posture and things. So the first thing is, you can absolutely meditate sitting in a chair. Come on down. Come on in. There is no thing of, I have to be on this kind of cushion, and so what I did when I started meditating was I was 27, so my body was in probably much younger, much better shape. I couldn't sit for more than 10 minutes like this. My knees would not allow, my knees were screaming. Okay, so you sit like this if you want, and then if you want, in your own practice, go and sit in a chair. Sit in a chair for a couple minutes, you feel better, you go sit on the cushion. So this way I'm getting a little bit of rehearsal time, practice with sitting in this position. Okay? And your body gets used to it. I'm much older now, okay, and I can sit long periods of time like this. However, if you're just sitting now, we're going to just do a short, maybe 10 minutes, won't be very long. If you need to shift your position, no problem. Okay? And through yoga, you can actually help to expand your hips, open your hips. I have a feeling a lot of people in here do yoga, so that's also very helpful. But actual gom, this word we use for meditation, you're not really meditating. It's better not to think, I'm going to meditate now. It's not this action word. Technically what you're doing, what you're trying to find this space into, is being in meditation. Being in meditation. Okay, so I'm a being, I'm a human being. Okay, and I'm going to focus much more on how I am being, how I am, as opposed to what I'm doing. The rest of our world is set up and the rest of our lives are what we're doing. What are we doing now? Okay, so let's just move into our meditation practice from being in meditation. Okay, and again, the most important part of the posture, most of you are familiar with this, have your spine as extended as possible, as if the back is straight. Try not to lean too heavily against the back of the chair. If you're seated in a chair, your back will become strong. You can place there's variations on meditation posture. You can place your hands, right palm on the left, thumbs touching. It's also around the level of the navel, but it's right against the body. So the body's very erect. Okay, hands down here, you slouch. It's right against the body. Head is a little bit directed this way, very subdued. If your head's like this, you get mental distraction. Excitement, kind of. Too far down, you get drowsy. Okay, so right against there's a little space here between the arms and the torso. It's also nice to find your way in this position from a relaxed place. When you're very relaxed, meditation comes organically. We as Westerners have this idea. I see people in retreats. Now I'm meditating. Okay? No, it has to be a very relaxed place. Okay? There's also posture. People put their hands on their knees. Yoga postures. Whatever you're comfortable, you experiment. Okay, so let's just find that posture. And you can lightly close your eyes. Lips are lightly together. Jaw is relaxed. And allow a natural, normal breath to move through your system. And start right now from the very top of your head. Take a couple of minutes to just scan down through your entire body, moving out through your feet and toes. Just observing any tension you might be holding, and allowing the normal natural breath to open up some space, releasing the tension, bringing yourself to as relaxed a place as possible. And take a moment to consider your purpose for being here this evening. Many other things we could be doing right now. So you may get some information this evening that may help you open your heart and mind and help lessen your attachment. Really help you move more love through your life. So in our tradition, we're very focused on using that type of experience to further us along a path to full awakening, to becoming a Buddha, as then we're unlimited in benefiting all other beings. So the goal in our tradition is to benefit all other beings. The means to get there is to become a Buddha, become a highly realized being, fully awake. So if that sort of motivation interests you, you can include it in your own. Take a moment now to set a positive intention for this time. And bring your awareness back to your breath, normal, natural breath. Focus all of your concentration there right now. If the mind wanders off the breath, simply observe without any further story or elaboration. And gently bring your mind back to the breath. So the breath is very helpful to use when you're not experiencing love, when you're not feeling loving towards someone. The breath just settles your mind and allows you to observe more clearly what is happening, to gain perspective on the situation. So from here, what I'd like you to do is visualize in the space in front of you now someone you love, perhaps the person most dear to you. And just imagine they're seated across from you, facing you right now. Just choose one person. And don't worry if you can't visualize very well. Just imagine they're seated in the space in front of you. And notice the feelings that arise in your body and mind in relation to this person. And imagine, in relation to this person, there is a seed, a radiant seed at your heart center, at your core. As you get in touch with these loving feelings towards this person, the radiance begins to glow like a flower opening. And light rays begin to pour forth of any color that represents that loving feeling for you. And imagine that love flowing out right now, permeating your entire body. And imagine this radiance flowing through your mind. Every thought, every feeling, every memory pervaded with this loving energy. As the energy continues to grow, let it flow out all the pores of your skin. Okay, let it move over, flowing over to the person in front of you. And imagine it melting into them at their heart center, pervading their entire body-mind. Just allow this great wish for them to be happy to melt into them. And now just allow that person in front of you to stay there. And you still have this loving energy from your heart, and place next to that person. Imagine in the space in front is an exact duplicate of yourself, facing you. Just focus on that right now, an image of yourself in front of you. And try to do this experience with yourself, sending the loving light over to you and letting it melt into you. Wishing yourself to be happy, loving yourself. Okay, now allow yourself to just remain there, the front visualization. And now place on the other side of yourself someone who is more challenging to you. You might label them enemy. That can be a strong word. Somebody you have difficulty with. Someone you don't like. Visualize them in the space in front, seated next to the image of yourself, and send these loving feelings to them. And just observe whatever arises in your mind. And allow these three beings now, the person you love the most, an aspect of yourself, a more challenging person. Just imagine they're permeated with these loving feelings, and slowly allow them to dissolve back into the space from which they came. And allow all the radiance you've generated at your heart core to just melt back in. But the seed is always there. The seed of unconditional, pure love. It is always there inside of you. It's your choice how much you choose to connect with it, how much you choose to access it and develop it. Just return your awareness back to the breath. And please relax. And slowly open your eyes. Is everyone comfortable, or some of the latecomers want to move around? Feel free. Again, my name is Amy Miller, and I've been teaching for the FEMT for many, I don't know, 25 years or so, and I love teaching, and I'm delighted to be back here. So I just want to ask you a few questions, and I wanted to mention as well, if you're interested at the end, I have some cards. There's a website these students helped put together for me. There's some meditations on the website, so if that's helpful for you, for people also wanting to get to start a practice, and even for people that have a practice, because a lot of people come to these classes and they're like, we don't really have anyone to explain meditation, I want to meditate, I don't know what I'm doing. So it's a nice way to just begin the session. Very easy, and now these students recorded it, so it was easier. It's right there, and there's some other things that can be helpful. And then I have at the end, if you're interested, I go to South India generally each year to go to these special teachings with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And you can get what's called mani pills. They're herbal pills that are blessed by His Holiness. So these are kind of fresh off the train. And if you're interested, I can give you a few in your hand. You put them under your tongue, 1, 2, or 3 at a time, and let them dissolve. No problem. You can just feel like you got these from the King of Kindness, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So if you'd like, there's no obligation, but some people like, I just thought to bring a little something like that. Observations from the meditation, I'm just curious. Anything bubbling up in your mind? Okay.
Yes.
What is bubbling up in your mind?
It was hard to love myself.
Isn't it interesting? How many people had that
It was
difficulty?
the most hard one.
Right? Unbelievable, isn't it?
Was my eyes started like blinking and something was happening.
Yeah, people start shaking, they get kind of flustered, and so when I said the most loving person, the person you love the most, some people have trouble distinguishing, right? Some people have 2 people out there. That's okay. But that one's easy. You can put a whole bunch of people there. That one's no problem. You got your kids, you got your partner, you got your best friend, your sister, your brother. That one, we have that down. We know who we love. We love some people. Great. And I want to say thank you and how wonderful in this room, and there might be some people in this room maybe that didn't have anybody out there. Okay? Usually we have somebody out there. So how fantastic for us, number one, that we have somebody out there. There's some people I teach, I do a lot of addiction workshops, different kinds of work in lower income areas or places where people have been abused. And they don't have anybody, they're not sure who to put out there. Can you imagine? So aren't we fortunate and privileged to have love, to know what that is, First of all, to give love, and usually you can give love because you receive love. Somebody loves you. Somebody loves you. It's just the feeling I get in this room, for the most part, okay? Then we moved over to ourselves. How many people have trouble with that one? If you want to be honest, right? That's all? Are you being honest? Come on, right? People are even embarrassed to put their hand up, how they feel about themselves. So thank you for saying that. Very honest response, okay? Because it's a tricky one. So if we want to get into pure love, and if we want to diminish attachment, the first thing about love is it has to start here. It sounds cliched. A lot of this probably, you know this already. It's just a reminder. A lot of our teachings are reminders. We need to, again, familiarize our mind. Hear it again. We have to hear it again. A lot of our teachings, I go to teachings, it's the same teaching again from our teachers. And people say, I've already heard that teaching. Are you living it? Have you synthesized it yet? No, that's why we have to hear it again. This is practice. This is a rehearsal. That's what we call practice. Meditation practice is a rehearsal for my mind, to put my mind in a better place, to get my mind in shape. Some of you, I look around the room, you look like you're in good shape. You go to your exercise class, okay? You go to yoga. Anybody doing flywheel? Come on. Okay, see, I knew that, right? In shape. We have to get our minds in shape. It's great to get your body in shape. Okay? I enjoy that too. I try to get some kind of exercise now and then. But what about your mind? So this is all about taking care of our mind. And if you're not loving yourself, you're already missing the first step. Okay? So you go, well, that's okay, so now what do? I want to love myself. What do I do? So again, in Tibetan Buddhism, the premise is to be of benefit to all living beings. Some of us had the good fortune to be at a retreat in Mexico in September, last September, with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, our main teacher, the man in the middle. Okay, he's my main teacher. I have many teachers, but he's one of my main teachers. And I love that photo of Rinpoche. There's some other funny, and sometimes Rinpoche has these photos when they're taking his picture, and I think he finds the whole thing very amusing. He's got a great sense of humor. And sometimes I see these photos of him, and it looks like the next moment he's just about to burst into laughter. Okay? Oh yeah, so we were at this retreat, September, and Rinpoche, the way he speaks, if you've ever heard him speak, he emphasizes all sentient beings. This is about all sentient beings. Sentient beings with a mind, with a consciousness. All living beings. Okay, so that includes you. So if you're really interested in helping others, everyone in this room I'm sure is, you want to be compassionate, you want to have a good heart, okay, it has to start here. And people say, but that's selfish. That's not Buddhism. His Holiness the Dalai Lama says then be selfish like that. Okay? If you realize the path to enlightenment, the reason I want to get there is to benefit all living beings, and then you realize, well, in order to get enlightened, I have to really do retreat, and I have to sometimes do these other things that is going to be me taking myself away to do these things. It feels like a lot of focus on myself, working on my mind. And then he said, then be selfish like that. Because you never lose your motivation. You never lose the motivation. I'm doing it so I can ultimately, one day, have an unlimited capacity for helping all others. So that means that I know exactly what to say when a relative comes to me for help, my kid comes to me for help. I know exactly the best thing to advise. I know exactly the best thoughts to have. And I know the best thing to get out of my mouth. Every moment you live in that. Okay? So you're a living being. You're a sentient being. So it takes a little bit of practice to start, and it's a great meditation to do for yourself. Then put yourself in front of you. Send the loving thoughts to yourself. Okay, what is love fundamentally? What is love? What do you think love is? What is it to you? Anybody? Care to say?
I think it's lack of judgment.
Okay, lack of judgment.
Compassion.
Compassion.
Being unconditional.
Being unconditional. What does unconditional mean
Like,
to you?
or I don't know, like fully available, like
Fully-
open to whatever the other person might be.
Okay. What other kinds of stuff?
Wishing happiness.
Okay, bing, that's it. That's actually the definition of love, is wanting others to be happy. Compassion, these are all symbols, aspects of it. Compassion is, what is compassion? Slightly different than love. What would you say compassion is? Okay, literally the word is to suffer with is compassion. To suffer with. Okay? So when you're suffering, so it's about suffering. Compassion is about relieving suffering. Relieving suffering. Wishing someone to be free of suffering. Okay? But happiness is wanting them to be happy. Sorry, love is wanting them to be happy. Okay? So compassion, wanting to relieve them of suffering. Love is pure and unconditional. Because pure love is expansive, vast, so it has no walls and no structures and no containment. Okay. But that's not often how we love, is it? It's a little different. And it contains these other things that you mentioned. Okay? We love, it's like, you hear this, I love you if, I love you when, I love you but. Okay? And what happens is attachment comes in. Attachment is what's called a poisonous state of mind. Okay? So here's what happens. Fundamental ignorance gets activated. What that means is you're confused. As a human being, you're confused. And you have a mistaken view of reality every moment. I'm sorry to inform you. That's the human condition. I'm not laying a trip on you. I'm just telling you how it is. And I don't know your mind. Some of you could be enlightened, so I can't judge. I'm just saying, for me as a human being, I'm limited. Okay? And I don't see everything clearly. Did you ever get a story going about somebody? Right? How accurate was the story? Whole story? No. Right? Okay? That's the limitation. But we get a story going, we get invested in the story. My perspective's always right. I feel really clear. Okay? Then I share the story with someone else later, and you find out that you didn't have it right at all. Okay? Buddhists have the story right all the time. Enlightened beings. But we don't. So because we have this fundamental confusion, okay, in our mind stream, out of that, that's the first poison that arises. There's 3 poisons, they call the state of mind. So out of that comes aversion, anger, or hatred. And then the other side of it is attachment and desire. And what happens with aversion, hatred, and anger is my mind has some information, has a story. Okay? But it's not seeing things clearly. And then karma is related to this. You've heard of the word karma, correct? Okay? Karma is a Sanskrit word. What does it mean? Literally, what does it mean? Anybody?
Action.
Thank you. It means action. She's been studying, okay? Thank you. Karma means action. It's the movement of mind. It's the movement of mind. So our mind fluctuates in a gross level, subtle level, most subtle level. The gross level we can trace. If I said to you, if you came in this door tonight, okay, a lot of people came in this door. From the door to taking your seat here, you can track gross movements of your consciousness. So the first moment, visually, you're taking in the room, you know. But there's also moments, more subtle moments, of you're taking in the room that you're not taking in the room that you're not tracking. But what you do is there's a selection process that then happens. You look at the room and you decide where you're going to sit. Then there's moments of consciousness or mind that start to work neurologically, choosing a seat, and then moving neurologically to get your muscles and nerve endings and things moving to move you over to the seat and sit you down. Gross moments of consciousness. I don't mean gross disgusting. I mean gross that you can follow. Everybody with me? Mm-hmm. You understand that? Then there's subtle moments of the mind that we don't get. Tibetan Buddhism says, in a finger snap, 64 movements of the consciousness in this. Well, that's pretty subtle. Okay, and then there is the most subtle mind. Mind in its clear, light nature. Luminous, spacious, unfettered, unobscured. And you say, well, that's not my mind, right? Okay, but that's our true nature of mind. That's the true nature of your mind. Okay? The only reason you're not in touch with that is because there's delusion, veils of delusion that cover over that. Okay? And they are things like confusion, anger, jealousy, pride, depression, anxiety. Ever heard of any of those? Right? That's all. But the true nature of our mind is it's clear and it's aware of things. Clear and knowing. That's your mind. That's the real nature of your mind. So then you have this fundamental confusion and you go, why is it in there? It's there because there's a previous moment of that in your consciousness. That's all. And you go, why was that moment there? Because there was a previous moment of it. Why was that there? There was a previous moment. That's all. And Tibetan Buddhism says there's always a preceding cause for every moment of mind or consciousness. And this particular present moment now had a moment before that preceded it, that caused it. And that has a moment that caused it, moment that caused it. And you can never go back to the first cause, because that moment will have a preceding cause. Okay, there's always a cause to something to make it arise. This is what Tibetan Buddhism says. And I will mention that I am just giving you information according to Tibetan Buddhism. So please, your job here is to be discerning and investigate thoroughly everything I'm saying. Okay? The path has to become real and true for you. You have to try on it, try the clothes on yourself, and cook it. Okay, I can't ram this down your throat. I'm not going to tell you to be Buddhist. If you have a tradition that works for you on your own, fantastic. Like that, no problem. But if you're interested, something works, please try on something I'm saying. You can try this meditation again. Look at what will get you to love yourself more. No problem. So please check up and be discerning in what I'm saying. So the next thing is, then you have fundamental ignorance. Okay? I'm not seeing things clearly. So based on what I'm not seeing clearly, what anger and hatred does is, so I have karma operating. Everything, and karma says, everything I think, do, and say definitely has a result in the future. And what that everything I think, do, and say leaves an imprint in my consciousness. Plants a seed in my consciousness. Okay? How it makes the imprint, I don't know. You have to be highly realized to know that. But it leaves an imprint. If I plant positive seeds, meaning by doing something positive for someone, saying something virtuous, saying something nice, truthful, calm and unifying like that, if I think good thoughts, do good deeds, they leave imprints in my consciousness, okay, that will ripen in the future in happiness for me. Something pleasurable for me. Negative things, negative thoughts, negative sounds, negative speech, okay, leaves an imprint in my consciousness that will ripen in the future in suffering, displeasure for me. Okay, karma, what goes around comes around, in a sense, like that. Okay? So now I come in contact with somebody and I get my story going, and I've got some karmic experiences, imprints ripening, okay, of something suddenly unpleasant, like a cloud comes across the horizon for me, obscuring my view, okay? And if it's something unpleasant, what I tend to do with my story is underestimate the reality that's out there. I see less than what is there. When we see less than what's there, I don't like it. I want it to go away. That's how anger and hatred gets activated. Okay? But then sometimes you see the story out there. Here comes a person walking toward you. Okay? Positive karmic seeds planted. Okay? Cause to arise. Something pleasurable for me, for my mind. Pleasant experience. Okay? And then what I do is I over-embellish the data that's out there, the information that's out there. Okay? When we over-embellish something, okay, we don't really see it clearly, but generally, when you over-embellish something, it has unique, pleasant qualities. That's what you're putting on that. I'm projecting that on that. Very special qualities are going out there. Okay? And when I see very special qualities out there, okay, our tendency with the human mind, okay, that has its flaws and mistakes and things like that, is to grasp on to the thing that's out there. And then attachment rears its ugly head. Okay? Anger and hatred are easy delusions. I'm not saying they're easy to deal with. Some of you might have that going dominant in your life. Okay, but they say that's like the vomit on your clothes. It's disgusting. Okay? And it's very easy to wash out of your clothes. Okay? Attachment and desire is the oil stain. It's more subtle. It masquerades sometimes as love, but it's not love. It's very hard to get out. Attachment and desire. So let's look a little more clearly how it operates. And the other thing I wanted to go back to in the meditation. So you have some experience and some difficulty perhaps in putting yourself out there to love. That's an interesting one to look at. That would be a great place for you to start your work, for those of you that came up for. Because a lot of your practice and wanting to love others and wanting to express compassion for others will be superficial until you have some of it here for yourself. It has to start here on a deeper level. Okay? That's a good place to start. Then I asked you to put a person more challenging in the space. How was that? And I said, please just observe what arises in your mind. Could you observe with something I will label now equanimity? Could you observe with equanimity? And that means having an equal regard, equal respect, just holding the space in observation. What's your experience?
No, tonight I couldn't. It was hard. It was really hard. It was like, you're visualizing the energy kind of going and the light, and I was with you, and then it was literally like a wall. And
when it was the negative person?
Yeah. Like it wouldn't even pass, and I had to really work, and I was a little surprised.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when the first things to notice when I said just observe, and we also had the meditation a little bit on the breath, and I said if your mind wanders, okay, so when your mind wandered, did anybody's mind wander off the breath? Of course. Okay. What was going on in your mind? Anything you noticed came up? Thoughts, judgments, stories?
Well, it came to my mind is usually when you're in that state is because you lack understanding. It's more than a feeling, it's lack of understanding. Because when we realize that the other person maybe has a different set of perceptions and they may be not attached to our own, that ignites that feeling maybe of discomfort, which is hatred.
Sure.
But so I'm confused. I don't know if it's a feeling or is a lack of understanding.
Right. Well, this was more in the meditation. Let me go back for a second. That's great. Let me just go back to when your mind wandered off the breath. Okay? Did you notice anything, any inner dialogue come up? Anybody?
Yeah.
What was coming up? Can you say?
Go back to the breath.
Go back to the breath. Great. Other things? So that's equanimity. Other things?
No, I was trying when you were guiding us towards that light point, like for some reason I kind of visualized that as blue. I don't know why, but then that blue thing was the thing. coming up.
Radiating out for you.
And,
Okay,
yeah,
but what about just when you stayed on the breath? Did your mind wander off the breath?
yes, it did.
Okay, did you have any inner dialogue going on at that time?
Well, stuff that had nothing to do with what we were.
Okay, so then I'll just get distraction.
Random thinking.
Sometimes you have random thinking, distraction, no problem. Okay, so the nice thing, no problem at all, just observe it. That's practicing with equanimity. I just notice I'm off the breath, just bring my mind, and then I say gently, right? Gently bring the mind back. Okay, how many of you like get the mind? Okay, this is a gentle process. You're not being hard on yourself. You don't want to be hard. Excuse me. You don't want to be hard on others. So why are we hard with ourselves? Okay. So this is again. Oh, I'm off the breath. This is how you learn to meditate, and this is meditation. Don't say it's not meditation. This is how we all start. And for me, every day is begin again. Every day is begin again. Okay. And equanimity means please be kind to yourself. You deserve it. You deserve it. Okay, so I do retreat sometimes. And sometimes 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, I have the ability in my life to do retreat. Okay, so I'm in retreat every day. It's me and my mind alone. There's nobody else there. I mean, there's people that give me food, but that's it. I don't talk to anybody. And very helpful to go deeply in to inform the work when I come out. Okay, to help me teach from a better place, from more understanding, let's hope. Okay, but I'm in retreat. Okay, and every day it's my mind, it's me and my mind. And every session is different. Sometimes I'm doing the same thing every session. Every session it's different. So there's compassion for myself. As I look up, I'm watching. You know, one session I can't concentrate on anything. Just zing, 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 you know. And I'm like, okay, just try. So what I do then is in your Dharma maturity, meaning your spiritual path maturity, right? I'm like, I can't concentrate on anything. I might try for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. I'm like, so then I change up my practice. Change up my practice, right? I'll start reciting some prayers. I can't focus on anything right now. Other times meditation's going really well. Very focused. So I can maybe do it a little bit longer. It's working really well right now. I think I'll try, get a few sessions going well, and then I have another session. I had a week of pizza. I'm in a very remote place I did retreat. Solukhumbu, Nepal, near Mount Everest. You know how much pizza is up there? Not a lot of pizza. Why? One of my first retreats there many years ago, so distracted. Pizza. All they were serving was potatoes, right? I like potatoes, but every day for 3 months, I wanted to hang myself. I was like, if I see another potato, okay? But so pizza came into my meditation. Simply distraction. Really, that's all. It's just craving, grasping. Because the Western mind, our minds, we like variety in food, don't we? Delicious. You don't want to eat the same salad every day. That's not how our minds work. Okay? Asians, a lot of Asians I know, they can eat the same thing every day. Okay? Couldn't. So pizza suddenly sifts through my thing. And every session would invade. For almost a week, I was so distracted, I was so disgusted with myself. Disgusted with myself didn't make the pizza go away. Didn't help my meditation. Okay? So then some humor came in. Well, I'm just watching pizza. Okay. What can I do? It's my mind. Why get down on myself? This is a gentle process. Why get down on myself? So what I did is I decided, the pizza looks so delicious. In my visualization, I had a meditation. I sat down, I ate the pizza. Seriously, I just visualized as if I was having pizza. Pizza went away. Okay, so you want to change things up and get wise in your practice. Where it comes from is practicing, rehearsal. You figure out what works. You make the rules, by the way. You make the rules. Now granted, you might come to a class and they're like, well, this is how you meditate, you sit down. Okay, there's some guidelines and framework. Fair enough. But you have to figure out what's going to work for your mind. Okay? I know a lot of people, they can't sit well. We just had this the other night in Deerfield Beach at Tuktakunga Center. So I said to a woman, she goes, oh, my feet are falling asleep. I said, try a square cushion. I have a corner under my tailbone. right? These cushions are really nice. Many centers have them. I really like them, okay? If they don't work for you, please experiment. Find what works for you. Experiment with heights of cushions, types of cushions. Everybody is different. It's okay. But then there's your mind, okay? So for me, it's always begin again, begin again. You want to try to have a Dharma practice that will span your lifetime. So we get this incredible out of the gate surge of energy. This is so exciting. I found this jewel. You want to pace yourself. So you want to, you're not going to, I have to sit for 2 hours. That's not going to be reasonable for you to build that suddenly into your life when you never did it. So you start a little bit. Then maybe you increase by 5 minutes every month. Increase, and then you learn some new techniques. You go to another class, get an initiation. You talk to other students, you start putting it together, and you have a rich, consistent practice that helps you love yourself and practice some self-compassion. Self-compassion. We've got a class, we're going to do that up in Deerfield Beach, later on, Klunga Center. Okay, let's go back to attachment. What do I do? So the greatest attachment we tend to have is with people. With people, mainly our kids. Probably our greatest attachment. Our kids, our family, our partner. No problem. It's normal. It's hard to have relationship, Lamiash used to say this, without attachment. So let's just look at the given. This is the given of human nature. We're going to have some attachment. It's normal. So don't get really down on yourself that you find you're grasping on. But let's be reasonable. This is a path that teaches practicality and reason. You want to analyze what's going on when attachment is throwing me off the horse. Because it will every time. It makes you suffer tremendously. Makes you suffer tremendously, okay? How many of you have kids? Most people, I thought, okay? It's okay if you don't have kids, but let's look at this with kids, for one. Our greatest attachment, okay? Some of you, how old are your kids?
9. 6 and 8.
6 and 8, okay, so youngish kids, school-age kids, okay? You have ideas of things you want them to do and be, correct? Would you say? Anybody in here not have ideas of what, okay? What you do with your kids, it's similar, first of all, where you got lessons to parent. Where did you get lessons to parent? Did you go to school for parenting? No. There is no school. The only schools are parents. How we were parented, how they were parented, and how they were parented and back. Okay? Did they make mistakes? Absolutely. So we're going to make mistakes. You have a good intention. You impart some knowledge to your kids. You impart some values in your family. You're not going to get it perfectly right. So for perfectionist control freaks in this room, please relax, okay? Because here's the secret, and I'm sorry to inform you, you're never going to have it all together, ever. Give it up now, you'll be much happier. Really, you are never going to have it all together. This is samsara. Samsara, Sanskrit word to cycle. What are you cycling through? Birth, old age, sickness, and death. All of that is a mess. Okay? It doesn't mean you don't enjoy. When you understand samsara's nature more and understand it's a mess, frankly, I enjoy more. Okay? Because I know sometimes the car will break down. My car broke down today. Okay? Wasn't my car, it was on loan. Very kind people, Klunga Center. A member loaned me an extra car. Wonderful. Makes it easier for everyone from the center. Then people don't have to keep picking me up, taking me, whatever. Great. Car broke down. Right? Is it going to ruin my day? No, Jessie and I had a fantastic time because the car broke down. We got this, she was very helpful. No problem, okay? So things will happen in samsara. So when I understand that, it doesn't have to ruin my day, okay? Things will happen to your kids. Let's hope it's glorious, wonderful things. But that's not all that happens, okay? And what you do is when something happens, you deal with it. Okay? But what we like to do in a Buddhist path is deal with it with a motivation of compassionate wisdom. Are you dealing with the things with a motivation, again, of compassionate wisdom? Okay? It makes everything... What's that?
How is that? How do you manage with compassionate wisdom?
Okay, so here's the situation. Let's just look at certain things. Your kid's being bullied in school. Okay? So what some people do, and I've seen this happen many times, they go to the school, they start yelling at the principal and the teachers. Okay, they're angry, they're charged. They find out the parent of the kid who did it. They harass the kid if they see the kid, they harass the parent. They yell at the parent. They get a group of people together. Your kid, da 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 da. Okay, here's what a Buddhist approach could be. And where does that get you? It alienates, doesn't it? Okay, our planet right now is having trouble with alienation. Many people are fragmented, split apart. Our job really on the planet, I think, is people that are trying to be kind, trying to practice consideration and compassion, is to try to bring people together as much as possible. What all that means is creating healthy relationships as much as you can. It can be with your best friend when you're trying to resolve something. It can be with the new person you meet. It can be with the person towing your car. It can be with somebody who dinged your car in a parking lot. Okay? It's all about our attitude, how you want to deal with it. You can go, you can get angry, you can yell, you can have a breakdown and cry. How does that sort it? Okay? So that's the whole thing is, so what happens is, because of meditation, because of some Buddhist practice and study, I might notice, my kid comes home upset, and I can notice and just observe anger arising in my mind with equanimity. Okay, I can observe anger arising in my mind seriously with equanimity. I've trained myself a lot. Okay, because I grew up in a family, everybody yelling and screaming at each other. Okay, with a lot of love, but it's just how we manage. And some parents that had very angry responses to things. So I learned that behavior, but it didn't help anything. So what I'll do is, it's okay to get angry, but Buddhists don't act out their anger, and they don't repress their anger. I observe it. Now I can say to myself, wow, tremendous amount of anger in my mind right now. I'm not an angry person, but I just simply have a lot of anger in my mind right now. And basically, I'll remind myself that my mind's true nature is that it's pure knowing, like the unfettered clear blue sky. But right now, I've got a massive bank of rain clouds obscuring my view from the clear blue sky, or the clear, luminous, spacious nature of my mind. That's all. Okay. Now, you might not say that in front of the bully. Okay, that's why we meditate. Okay, so I can go back and practice here at home, my cushion. This is like coming home for me, and I'm going to do my work there. And I'm going to have to do the work here again and again and again and analyze. Okay, I screamed at his father. I didn't have any control and I screamed at his father. I lost it. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and go, okay, so what was really going on there? Well, my kid is hurt. I want to fix it. My kid is hurt. Does screaming at the father of the bully help? You analyze. Okay? Think about the kid of the bully, the father, the bully. Where did he learn that thing? What's the parent like? Could they maybe also have a misunderstanding of reality just like me? In some ways, we're not that different. And don't we want to be happy and not want to suffer? Don't we both want that? Everybody wants that. Don't we both have Buddha nature? Okay, because Buddhism says everyone with a mind has Buddha nature. And you're like, well, his Buddha nature wasn't showing up today. No, neither was mine. And they might call it something different. They might not call it Buddha nature. It doesn't mean you're a Buddhist. It means you have a seed, a potential that can awaken into a fully realized being. That's what Buddha nature is. And everyone with a mind, again, has it. The bully has it. Osama bin Laden had it. Like that. Okay? But what we like to do is divide and conquer. And what that does, we compartmentalize. You know, these people, I know about them, they live in this part of Miami, oh, I know who they are. Okay, they live over here, I see the kind of car he drives, well, I know all about him then. I see what kind of thing she does and what kind of clothes she's wearing, so now I've got her boxed into that. So when you compartmentalize, the heart-mind experience, which Tibetan Buddhism says is here, all you do is you're creating boxes in the clear, spacious luminosity. Tibetan Buddhism, the mind is located at the heart center. It's not physical, not the brain. Tibetan Buddhism is you have mind-heart experience, and now I put boxes in it. So love is this vast, spacious opening of this. If you're around someone like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, you feel there's no walls in here, no obstruction, no boxes. Just pure, luminous space of loving kindness. Okay? It's a little disarming when you're around him, honestly. I've had time around him. I one time had an interview for half an hour. Okay? I walked out babbling. I was like, because he's so pure. He's practical, he's funny, he's affectionate, but I'd never been around that kind of pure energy before. Okay? So everyone in this room can attain that and be that. So then your kid gets bullied, your response is, let me try to come from as open a place as here, even though I'm really hurting right now. You can just acknowledge that to yourself. You don't have to say anything. And let me think about rationally what I can possibly do. Okay? And then as Buddhists, we remember karma. Karma means I'm experiencing the result of a negative experience that happened before if I'm suffering because my kid got bullied. My kid's also experiencing the result of a negative karmic imprint if they're suffering from the bullying. So these are all ways our mind can stay open and expansive by taking responsibility, is what Buddhism's about. By understanding karma, that you, and what Rinpoche is saying, and he was teaching this a lot in Mexico, everything comes from the mind. Everything comes from the mind. It's hard for us to understand. A lot of it we don't want to take ownership from. My kid is fat. My kid has a learning disability. My kid gets bullied. My kid doesn't have any friends in school. My kid didn't make the team. Right? We don't want to hear that. It's easier for us to attack somebody out there and go after them and make it right. Buddhism, as a Buddhist, you're an inner being. You're an inner being. What does that mean? I'm figuring out what's my responsibility, what's going on in my mind. How can I not create any more negative experiences for myself? Because I don't want to suffer anymore. I don't want my kid to suffer. It makes me suffer. So what I have to do, all I can do from this moment on, is take responsibility with my eyes open as widely as possible. Gently, it's a process. And figure out what is the most compassionate, reasonable thing to do from here, this moment forward. It doesn't mean you don't get angry. It doesn't mean you're not going to be sad. Okay? But I'm just going to watch that mind that arises. I don't have to get that invested in it. Why? It's simply a delusion that's like a cloud in the sky. It comes into the space of my mind for a while, abides there, changes, and eventually disappears and goes away. Just like clouds in the sky. So the more you want to invest yourself in anger and attachment, you're planting a seed that creates a cause for another moment of that. You're rehearsing that in your mind, is what I'll say. You're rehearsing that. Okay. So by looking at it, you're not rehearsing it. By coming back to your question and being like, wow, really, really difficult day. My boss yelling at me. I hate him, you might say. And you can have your different things about, listen, let me analyze. And let me analyze things based on attachment and based on aversion. Let's break down the reality a little bit, okay? And this we'll talk about more next week as well, okay? But let me just introduce a little bit, because it's very profound. Emptiness. How many of you have had teachings on emptiness? Okay, not very many. Okay, so we'll have to take care next week and give you a little brief. It's very profound. Don't worry if you don't understand. Let me just analyze. When someone's walking towards you, this is your practice. Okay? This is your practice. For me, it's whomever is in the space in front of me. This is my practice. What's going on in my mind? How do I feel about them? It's a human being there. A human being there that I have potential to create a healthy relationship with. The more beings on the planet you create healthy relationships with, the happier your life. That's how it works. It's that simple. Okay, but we don't create that with everyone. Does anyone have a difficult person in their life? Okay, yes, of course. Of course. Let me just show you a moment. Here they are now walking toward you. They're in front of you. We took our challenging person in the meditation, right? You had a wall. I can't deal with them. Okay, here they are. They're a sentient being too. They want to be happy, they don't want to suffer. They have Buddha nature. Okay, here they are. When I teach anger courses, we go more into that. Okay, let's analyze them now. I come home and I go, oh, that person drove me crazy. right? Okay, this is the data. You've got an oblong kind of thing here. Okay, it's got a hole in it and sound comes out. I got 2 circles here that are colored. I've got material here. That's the head. Then there's a longer torso-shaped thing, 4 appendages. There's your person. And there's some material, generally, on top of them. That's it. Everybody with me? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now I've got karmic imprints in my mind. Okay. Here comes a result. When karma comes to, we say, fruition, or it ripens, I'm experiencing the result of some negative deed I did in the past, and it results in displeasure or suffering in my mind. Here comes the enemy. Here comes my challenging person. And they manifest. Boom. Okay. The more I engage with them negatively, I'm creating more experiences to experience somebody unpleasant in my space. Somebody I don't like. Okay? Now they open their mouth and sound comes out. Okay? I interpret the sound as stupid, horrible, useless. Or they're yelling at me and now I'm suffering. It's, makes me sad, makes me upset, makes me scared, makes me overwhelmed, whatever. Okay? Does everybody else interpret when they open their mouth in that way? Does everybody else see it that way? No? Why not?
So not carrying the same karmic.
So they don't have the same karmic makeup, right? Some people find it pleasant. I give an experience. Your boss is yelling at you. You're suffering now. You're embarrassed. Everybody here's in the office. Isn't there somebody in the office that doesn't like you? And they're like, great. Cool. Okay? Because this person lacks any inherently concrete nature of being challenging. It's simply my mind. Okay? If it was them out there, everybody would see them and have that experience of them. And if you really break it down, whatever negative words are coming out, it's simply sound. Can you break it down to even the further raw data? Sometimes that's all it is. But my mind then puts an interpretation on it. And then I see things in a certain way. Like that. And I experience that. Attachment is the same. Okay? Here comes, and I don't know if any of you remember. Do you remember, when you fell in love with somebody? Remember that kind of, I call it falling into obsession. I think we talked about this last year. Falling into obsession. Falling into infatuation is not love. Okay? What happens is positive karmic seed ripening. Something good I did in the past, said in the past, thought in the past, and now it's coming to fruition, and here comes my person. Here's my kid. Here's my love interest, right? And then what attachment does is something pleasant ripening. I see the person, but what attachment does, because I don't have a clear view of them, because I have not realized emptiness, I vomit a projected fantasy on them and over-embellish the reality that's there. I do not see them, okay? So how many of you with kids, how do you deal with other people's kids? It's different, isn't it? They're not your kid. But your kid, oh my goodness, right? Okay, so it's interesting to see. Now granted, you have to practically take care of your kids. You can't take everybody's kids in. Sometimes you help other people's kids. But could you have the same open view that you feel, that gush you have about your kids? What if you have that about other people's kids? Doesn't mean you have to take care of them, it's an attitude. Mm-hmm. It's simply an attitude of this loving kindness. Because don't you wish everybody to be happy? Because that essentially is love. So who won't I want to be happy? And doesn't the more challenging person in our visualization really need happiness? Mm-hmm. The reason they're more challenging for us is they're probably suffering and miserable, insecure, and as a result they do some behavior that I don't really value. So if they were happy, they probably wouldn't act like that. Okay, so think about the projected fantasy. We've seen it about falling into obsession and infatuation. You've seen it. But in the beginning, this person, your Adonis-Set, I mentioned, I think we talked about this last year, did we? Or no, something else? I can't remember. Maybe it was another teaching. Okay? But you get this infatuation projected out there in the person. You're not seeing them. This used to happen to me. Somebody projects something out, and then 3 months later, all of a sudden they'd say, well, you like to do this, somebody I was dating. And I looked at them and I'm like, I never said that. Where'd you get that idea? I never liked that. So we vomit this thing out there on people. You don't see them. And you remember when you go out with somebody 6 months, remember when you introduced them to your friends? Remember that space? You finally going to go out to dinner, meet my friends. Meet your friends, you have dinner. Later you ask your friend. So what do you think? What does your friend say? What do they say about your perfect person? Do they think they're perfect?
He's all right.
He's all right. My friends used to be like, he's all right. I'd be like, what? Are you kidding? It's because they're empty of any inherent nature, of any inherent perfection, because it's in my mind. I never saw them clearly. So what happens 3 months later is their breath smells. They've got toe cheese. It's disgusting, right? There's other habits they did. But initially, that first gush, something pleasant, great, and then you lump all of your expectation onto them. That's attachment. And attachment is not about wanting the other person to be happy. Attachment is, I want to be happy. I have an agenda. I need you to be this. I want you to do that. I love you if. I love you when. That's attachment. So ask yourself, and what happens for most of us, it's mixed. With your kids, it's mixed. Of course, you want to foster certain agendas from them. But mainly with your kids, note this, even if you have school-age kids, or teenagers or older kids, you will impart some values to them, let's hope. Some decent values, let's say. It's up to you what they are. It's your business, okay? You'll try to get them educated. You will help them, clothe them, feed them, teach them, okay? And then what happens when they don't do what you want them to do and they don't go to the school you wanted them to go to or study what you wanted them to study, and they don't live where you want them to live when they're older, and they don't associate or marry the person you want them to marry? There's nothing you can do about it. Did we do everything our parents wanted us to do? Okay, so they're alone to you. For most of you, they come through your body, if you're the mom. If not, you raise them, you do the best you can do, you'll make mistakes, and we let go. Sometimes the more you let go, the more your kid comes back to you. And the more they're going to be open to hearing what, foisting the agenda out of attachment and this, and you're going to drive them crazy. We know from our own people that parented us like that. So we just continue to work on attachment. Sure, there's attachment there, okay? But mostly we try to just watch it as it bubbles up. Yeah, boy, did that come from attachment. You'll say things to kids. I always love, there's some book somebody passed me, I always love this one with mothers, but there's a book about a psychologist that talked about mother-daughter relationships. Those are very unique. You know that expression, you get dressed, you're going out, and then you hear, "You wearing that?" It's a special expression, because clearly it's like, there's a problem for my mother. I thought it was perfect. I'm happy with it, but somehow there's a problem for someone with what I'm wearing right now. There's many little innuendos, things you'll say to somebody to get them to do what you want. Again, check your motivation. And I always ask myself many times, you have life choices. Many things you're doing, whether it's with your kids, your family, your job, whatever it is, moving cross country, whatever you're doing, there's many choices faced with you. And I'm always asking myself, what is the most beneficial thing? What's the most beneficial thing? Meaning the greater benefit. For not just myself, what would be the most, it could be here, what would be the most peaceful way to resolve this? What could be a good thing for me to say to the father of the bullying kid? Or to go into the school? How do I want to go into the school? You can be assertive. You can be assertive. Buddhists are not doormats. We don't just lie, well, my kid got bullied, oh well, karma. No, in the face of social injustice, bodhisattvas, who are high-level practitioners, basically Buddhist saints, trying to get enlightened to benefit others, that's their whole mode of being, okay? You take responsibility as a bodhisattva. In fact, you have a responsibility to do that, but with compassionate wisdom. Never divorced from that. So bodhisattvas can act, but from a good place, like that you don't just come barging into somebody screaming at people. And what sort of more healthy relationships can you create in your world right now that come from this loving place? And really considering, always considering some care for myself, number one, because from that will come wanting you to be happy, wanting you to be happy. Do you want yourself to be happy? Okay? Why not? We all deserve to be happy. There's no guilt about it. Everyone deserves to be happy, but again, not at the expense of too many other people and stuff. Not, forgetting about everyone else, but having an equal, balanced space in your mind for yourself, for others. So I know we're a little bit out of time. I could get into attachment to stuff as another thing we're attached to. Stuff is easier though. Who really cares about stuff when it comes down to it? Your car gets dinged in a parking lot, right? Common, standard thing. What's your response going to be? Maybe you see the person doing it. How do you respond? And here we are in South Florida. Okay, driving is a whole other animal here, isn't it? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And I've driven in Massachusetts, another challenging state, the Boston area. But here you've got old people on the street, they can't even see over the steering wheel. And they're out there. I saw a guy backing up in a parking lot the other day. I was just like, please help him. Like, please, he's lethal. He can't even see what he's doing. So we need to take more care. Perfect place to practice. How do you want to be in your car? Agitated? You teach your kids that. If you want to give somebody the finger when you're driving and your kid sees it, your kid will give somebody the finger when they're driving, think it's okay. That's where they learn it from. I know they learn it from other friends and things, but think about the space you set up in your car. I do know people, I know Buddhists, calm, compassionate, wonderful people, and something happens when they get behind the wheel of the car. Right? They turn into somebody entirely different. One nun friend of mine once, I met her in India. We never drove together. We drove once. She was driving. I couldn't believe. I was like, who are you? What's wrong with you? You're so aggressive, yelling at everybody. I was like, Jesus, So just think about it. People, somebody coming into your space in front of you without signaling, they're in the wrong lane. Have you ever gotten in the wrong lane? You realize you gotta get over? Nobody's letting you over, so much traffic. Forget to signal, you mistake, you're spaced out in the car. Happens all the time. So why can't you let them in? Why are you aggravated now? Figure out what triggers. What are the triggers for your anger? That's where you want to analyze. It's what you want to go in and have a look at, gently. What was going on at work the other day when I was so irritated with that person? Okay. So the other thing about some of these expressions is I can notice in my mind now, I don't have any realization, but I just notice a little bit from sitting for years, and is for me, if it's in relation to anger, even though I know we're talking about love and attachment, but I can grab it now at irritation, annoyance, and frustration. Because those are all lesser aspects of anger before I'm into full-blown rage. So I catch it sooner. Okay, so with my attachment, is I'll notice my mind grasping. You go into a department store, perfect place to practice. We like stuff. We're in the desire room. We like stuff. Okay? There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? And you see this. Now they invented the bigger, smarter phone. More pixels on the camera. And your friend got one. And now it talks to them, and now it does this, and the lights go off, and I move my finger this way and that way, and I see that. And my mind, a little bubble goes out. I gotta have that. I gotta get one of those. Who did I just say that to the other day, jokingly? I said, I gotta get me some of that. That's right. Just that. But so now I watch it with amusement. You ever go into a department store, you go in to buy socks. Ever happen? Go in to buy socks. This is my department store meditation, to counter grasping. Seriously, try this. I went in to buy socks. Within 10 minutes in the department store, I had 3 other things over my arm. Okay? In the morning, when I woke up, I did not have these 3, I didn't have any notion of these 3 things at all in my mind. But now, there they are. Department stores know this, and advertisers are the best psychologists. They know just how to get you. Be skillful. Please be skillful. Be careful what you watch on TV, what magazines you read, what books you read, it's all coming in and leaving imprints. Buddhist centers and Buddhist groups like this are great as far as giving you some other imprints in your mind that may lead to some better health. Okay? You go into the store, play with it a little bit. I only came in for socks. The only thing you're allowed to leave with and purchase that day are socks. Okay?
I can do that.
What's that?
I can do that.
You do that, okay. I salute you, thank you. She can't do it, okay. So you go in and you come out with your socks. The only thing you're allowed to buy. If you find you have several other things, you have to put them back. Do you want to try this is a little external meditation, not formal meditation, but little external homework exercise. You have to put them back. If you really want them, and later you go home and you go, no, that was a good buy, you're allowed to go back the next day and get it. You never go back. It's not that important. Okay? And be very careful, because when it's on sale, okay, then you need 2 of them. That's what the mind, I'll get 2, I'll get 1, So be very skillful with your stuff. Less is more, frankly, I've found. Less is so much more. So much more. So be skillful with your stuff. I recently got a book out of the library. I'm trying to, sorry, I should say this is all being recorded. My brother's a hoarder. There, I've said it. Really in bad shape with hoarding. He's a great guy. I got this little book out. Some of you are familiar. I don't have the title right. Something like The Japanese Art of the Magic of Tidying Up.
The life-changing magic of tidying up.
There you go. It's very fun, this book. You want people that are hoarding and you want to clean up and it's weighing on your mind. We've got the closet, the basement, the attic. We've got that room that it's a storage unit. Okay, I love how people are paying to keep their stuff. Monthly, people pay. It's normal. A lot of people do that. But people say to me, I want to get rid of it. I hate it. I want to get rid of it. Okay, this book is interesting. You hold something up, gives you little exercises. How much joy does this give you? Think about it, okay? So there's things that help you to reduce a little bit if that's something that you feel like you want to do that will make you happier. Some people don't mind, that's okay. But again, think about your response. You're in the parking lot, your car got dinged, you see the person do it, you're walking towards them, you see them do it. Does anybody do that intentionally? 99.9% of the time, no. Haven't you accidentally let your car door swing open and something? You didn't mean to do it. Now they have a ding on their car. My hand was full of packages, car doors. It's reasonable, but I see people get really agitated. Hey, what'd you do to my car? What are you going to do? The nature of your car is to get dings. That's its nature. Seriously, I'm sorry, that's the nature of a car. As soon as I don't care if you got a spanking new fire engine red, whatever. As soon as you drove it off the lot, it started degenerating in value. Everyone knows that. What's the point of getting attached? I see people with attachment to their stuff. The panic when you can't find your smartphone. I know we keep stuff on it. Be reasonable again. If you want to be practical, my brother's a PC guy. His mantra in life, did you back up? Did you back up? Did you back it up? But this is a practical thing that got me thinking. That's not really my mantra, but what happens is it got me educated, back it up, so if I lose it, I have it backed up. It's just technology. Is it a hassle? A little bit, yeah. I'll get another phone. And I got all my stuff, and maybe I lost a few emails, but my life is not over. Okay, but I see people like, I can't talk to you right now. I have to find the phone. Okay, so then slow your mind down, retrace. So in meditation, I've been able to slow my mind down. I'm actually now, if I need to at times, I'm doing more. Why? My mind in a slower state is tracking. So when I put my glasses down, I put my keys down, my mind was there. If my mind's there, I know where my keys are. If my mind's not there, I don't know where they are. Okay, that helps me find the phone. Oh, now I know. Yeah, the last place I remember having it was that restaurant, and it's sitting on the table, and you go back, and there it is. And they're like, we found it on the table. Yeah, because my mind in a clear space. It's okay. It's okay to slow your mind down due to meditation. Doesn't mean you slow your life down, but it's not a bad thing to slow our lives down sometimes. Helpful?
Yeah.
Questions? Comments? Is there something I didn't speak about that you're like, I needed to hear this about love and attachment? Anything like that?
How about the response to a bully? When the person, when
Yeah.
you're bullying someone, either to you or somebody else, or actually to you, if you get upset with someone and you're really upset, and it calls for an action, like he's hurting you or something like that, and then you need to react. And if you are angry in that moment, how you stop it, or how
And
you
is this
react?
somebody your age or somebody you're working with, community person, neighbor? Or is it a kid?
On the street.
Somebody on the street, okay. So what I would do, somebody that you know or somebody that just runs into
I
you?
don't know.
So partly it can be, if you're being bullied on the street, you're not necessarily around people that long, right? Is it somebody you're walking past, you're saying?
Yeah, I'm just making up an example, so let's say yes.
Okay, so sometimes you get bumped by somebody on the street, okay? New York City's common for that, right? People bump into each other. Somebody goes off. Sometimes it's so fleeting, I don't necessarily need to be near it. I can just pass by. Let them go off. There's some things you can't do anything about. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama asks you to please hold on there with your phones. We're almost done. We're just taking a photo. Okay, sorry. I was like, please wait, no photo. His Holiness the Dalai Lama asks people, please, in the face of certain things, ask yourself, is there something I can do? And I would add, with compassionate wisdom, is there something I can do in this situation? And if there is, you take action with a good motivation. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. So somebody's going off walking down the street. Do I need to deal with it at that point? Maybe it's not appropriate because they're just a stranger. But somebody in my space that I know, the first thing would be, first I'm just noticing, wow, this is so uncomfortable. My spiritual practice, a lot of why I'm practicing, is to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Samsara is uncomfortable. So I acknowledge that. It's like that. Then can you respectfully sit down, either privately, take them aside quietly so everybody doesn't hear you having this dialogue that, speak to the person directly. But rather than attacking them, can you explain how their behavior makes you feel? Every time you raise your voice, I'm afraid, I get scared. I want to run. I want to leave. I want to quit. I want to be away from you. Something like that. Rather than blaming them, it's better, as they say, to make I statements. Based on this, I feel this way. They might not know that. If it's a close friend, if hey, what's going on? What's going on for you? Can I help you with something? You seem, something's really upsetting you right now. Is there anything I did? Is there something I said, or can you speak about it? Can we make a time to talk about it? I would very reasonably try to directly go to the person. That's not always possible. But again, try to make it in an appropriate way, at an appropriate time when they'll hear you, and maybe privately. Okay. If it doesn't work, and you've got a situation at work or in a family, some people do somewhat interventions. They get a group of people that have the same experience about this person. Find a good time, set a time for a meeting. You sit down with their buy-in. They've agreed to the meeting. They don't have to know what it's about, but it's just like, can we get together? We want to talk about something. And then directly, compassionately feedback to the person how it makes you feel. Sometimes you can't fix stuff if they're not willing to change. But the other thing I can do, we're trying to dismantle some of the delusions in our mind so I can respond a little more peacefully in the situation. It doesn't bother me as much. And that can happen through practice. Is that helpful? Okay. So some of the dismantling by joy can come through the that feeling of just realizing I'm okay. They can yell at me, but I'm still okay. I'm the same person this morning as this moment right now after they bullied me. In the morning they didn't bully me. I'm the same person. I'm still okay. They can't really topple me. I'm really all right. Because a lot of times it really goes in, makes people feel less than valued. I'm still okay, I'm a good person, but probably this person's suffering and quite miserable, has probably been yelled at themselves, is very stressed. That's where that stuff comes from. Not feeling good about themselves. So if I hold my space and hold them, and people can feel when you hold them in a compassionate way. So if I'm not unleashing anger back at them, some people feel there's a gentle approach there, and that can soften sometimes their... Often you can apologize to people too. Genuinely apologize. It's hard for them to, anger throws oil on the flames. Apologizing throws water on it, puts the fire out. It's very hard for people to stay angry at you when you're sincerely apologizing for something. You have a question?
Yeah, well, wanted to when you said the example of people screaming and you tell them how you feel, but their response is, I'm sorry you feel that way, but that's how I am, or I don't.
So they're
it's
saying
not my problem that you feel that way, that's how I am.
That's how I am. So on some level, there's some things you can't change, which is that you can't change others, you can only change your mind. If it's something in a situation with a workplace stuff, you have choices, and the choice would be get more people to discuss, go over their head, get another job. Or, there's things, if it's a family thing, you just know in certain spaces, I've made distance with myself with certain people that I don't feel safe with in the family. It doesn't mean I cut them out of my life, or don't associate with them, or don't spend time. I limit the time when it becomes a very unhealthy situation. That's okay. If I've at least vocalized it to them in a nice way, they're not interested. But sometimes people start to see that you're not going to show up for that kind of thing again. I had someone in my life who did it, and they would yell at me a lot for no reason. It was just the way they were. And what started to happen is I just started immediately leaving the room every time they did it. I wouldn't even say anything. I just leave the room so there was no more audience. Because as soon as there's no one there, they had nobody to yell at, so they'd stop. And it wasn't good for them, basically. But it was just a pattern. And as a result of that, of my just taking myself away, it lessened their doing it, because they realized they weren't getting any airtime for it. So that was one technique I tried. Not angrily stomping away, just kind of remove myself from the room. And in fact, that had more of an imprint than when I would angrily stomp away, because they were like, oh good, I made somebody angry. Where this way I just kind of moved off. And question?
Yes. Let me see if I can articulate it right. Make the question. Between the fine line about love, true love and attachment for your kids or whoever you are loving, I find a really fine line to see and unravel if it's attachment, what you want them to do, or your ego that is talking of what you want them to do, or your. How do you go into truly knowing that fine line of, yes, I'm doing it truly for his or her benefit, or is it my ego mind talking, or my attachment towards reputation or whatever it is? How do you do that?
I think initially it's a good question, is you check with certain things. And a couple examples that come up for me is, let's say, getting them educated. And I've had some friends that were like, I want to send them to a private school there. And part of it, I found some people wanted to do it because they really wanted their kids to get a good education. That was important. I had another friend that did it based on the reputation of the school, and she wanted people to know that she sent her kid there. So that's a question I'd ask. Now let's say you want to say, I want my daughter to take ballet. I want my kids to go skiing, something. And your kid tries, and you take them all out, and you do your outing, and there they are, and you get them invested in the classes, and your kid is absolutely miserable. Maybe we find something else. You let them go a season, you let them try one class, and maybe it's a 6-week something, or one ski trip, or I'm just giving an example, and they absolutely hate it. Maybe you can make a little plan that, this is important to us, physical activity, we're going to do. So you find something that you think you're going to like. Maybe you give them a choice. What about this or this? And then let them choose, because it then comes from them. That could be an option of something like that. I don't know if that speaks to...
A more subtle, for example, you are watching how your friend really suffering. And sometimes they ask you for advice, sometimes they don't want anything. And then you realize that there is anxiety or anger coming into your mind, then you're watching your friend and you say, come on, you know the tools, you know, or is it really a loving, kindly, I want you to be happy, or is it my attachment to want you to be happy?
Or that they should take my advice and they'll be happy.
Yes,
Possibly like that. So part of it is, again, you can't change other people. And then the thing is, friends and family and close people to us will come to us for advice, and they may be leading really unhealthy lives that we see, so they'll come for advice. So the thing is, you can give advice. How many people really listen to advice? Not a lot, okay? But you can impart it gently from a good motivation and let go of any expectation. Because people tend to go off and do whatever they want. Sometimes the best thing you can do for some people is listen to them. They just need to air it, but with a limit as well. I find them ruminating too long over something, it just creates another imprint of that. So on some level, if your friend continues to do it, for me, I have a friend leading a really unhealthy life for years now. It's been like 30 some years of her coming to me for, you know, and after about, I think I just woke up a few years ago and realized it's so unhealthy, the relationship between us, not really a friendship much anymore, not a mutual friendship. So now I don't give her advice anymore. She asks, and I'll just say, I don't really know what to tell you, because that would irritate me. I give advice, she never once listened to the advice. So now I'll just go, I'll listen, I don't really know what to tell you. I wish you all the best with it. And I'm much more able to let it go and let her do her thing, where I realize she's got her own path, her own karma. And yet what I can do, you can still put them in a visualization in front of you if it helps. I can still send her all the loving energy, and I really, really want her to be happy. I totally do. So I don't know if that speaks to that, where I can really feel here that I really want her happiness, but I no longer have an agenda that she's got to do it my way, she should listen to me, she should follow my advice. I don't have any expectation of that anymore. But I've limited a little bit of the time with her because it's so unhealthy sometimes, and I don't know if that helps.
yes.
It's a fine line, but it's...
Yes, sometimes you don't know if it's attachment to what you want.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be. I know my attachment for a long time with this friend was because she asked me for advice and I spent time giving it to her. I mean, this was also on a level of creating budgets for her. Working out, doing a resume for like things that she never used, she never followed. So on that level too, let alone verbal advice. So I had an attachment, I wanted her to follow my advice. And I got so twisted up over that, and then I went, that's my attachment. I wanted her to follow my advice, but I do love her. I want her to be happy. Let's just, that one, I don't need to do that anymore. That's okay. I know now she won't follow the advice, so I kind of sometimes expect that. And then one time recently she followed my advice, I was surprised. But I didn't have an expectation, it's like, okay, you know. Thank you. Enjoy. So we are out of time. Is there one more question? Somebody, yes? Or a couple more questions?
And I came late, maybe you addressed this, but when I came, I think you were speaking about relationships and attachment to relationships. And I was wondering, what is the correct way, if there is a correct way, because I've met people from Eastern traditional wisdoms who say perhaps not to get married and not to have relationships, lasting relationships. But if that's not your point of view, if it is, I don't know, then what is the correct way to approach a relationship where you don't feel attached and where you're not leading the other person on to feel attached to you either? So you're not getting
So, as I mentioned before, Lama Yeshe said it's very hard to have intimate relationship without attachment, number one. However, how about you get together with someone, somebody attracts you, you'd like to have a companion, you'd like to be in a relationship, maybe you'd like to get married, maybe you'd like to have kids, right? Any of that's fine, no problem at all. And so what if you meet someone you think that you'd like, and you meet them, but you come from as whole a place as you can be. You're okay. Okay? You're not expecting them to do it for you and change your life and make everything okay. Such a load to put on relationships. Okay? They're not also going to do it, for you. They've got all the answers for me. They're going to sort everything for me. Too much pressure on a relationship. I'd like to have a companion. I met this person. I really, really like them. And they seem to like me, and we're together now for a little while. Maybe we can support ourselves on our path. Maybe we can walk together and spend lives together for a long time, whatever, and do these things. But at some point, we're going to be separated, definitely in death. However, maybe I can learn to support them, that they can support me, we can have a great time. That would be a nice way to do it.
It's not Hollywood. It's not the intimate sort of thing that we all deep down, not all, but at least I, deep down, wish would exist, but perhaps doesn't.
What do you think? Do you think that's real?
According to everyone I've spoken to.
That they lived happily, because we live in samsara. So samsara again is birth, old age, sickness, and death. It means to cycle. It's all suffering. So don't be brainwashed. Be careful what you're brainwashed with. Hollywood brainwashes us. That there's a Mr. or Miss Right. Okay, I looked for them for years. They do not exist. Doesn't mean you can't be in a relationship and have a fantastic time with a
You just
fantastic...
can't be that intimate.
You can be very intimate. Oh, absolutely be intimate. There's nothing wrong with intimacy. Is it going to be perfect? No. There's no perfect person there. You want a perfect person? Pick one of them. Okay? We have deities, okay? I remember finding deities of different colors and stuff, and I was like, finally, I was like, Mr. Miss Right. No, what happens when I woke up and I found out that there is a Mr. Right and he's blue? And he looks different than... So, it's just different, but as far as the human realm, you're not going to find perfection, but you can have a really good time and enjoy it. Nothing wrong with that. But let's do it, wait, hang on one second. Let's do it reasonably. And Lami, I should say by touching reality. We're going to talk more about that next week. I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah, without expectations, I think you're saying, right?
Without expectations, the mother of disappointment.
Yeah.
Be reasonable. Understand what, but we already did this, we'll do it next week if you come back about the projected fantasy, but yes.
Well, what I want to share is I believe, this is my belief and my experience, usually when you meet somebody else, you do intimacy, you get together, it's a friendship, and nobody's perfect, so you're always going to have things, but it's like this respect that grows through time, through communication, through friendship, that's a glue for itself. That's how I felt that and maybe it doesn't last forever, but it's a beautiful thing. I was married for 23 years, and it's just the moment in time that you share it by being totally, transparent and vulnerable and present. And
yeah, very nice. Friendship is fantastic to really be friends with people. You're not projecting. You're very careful about what you are projecting on them. Vulnerability, very powerful place. Not a weakness, a very powerful place. Intimacy, fantastic. Yeah, and looking at when you are uncomfortable in a relationship, like growing in relationship. I have some friends that have beautiful long-term relationships. They're very, very conscious. So the best relationships I know, people have said to me, they are work. They have to work on them, but mostly they're easy. Okay? So you have to be conscious and keep growing your relationship. People change in relationships, long-term relationships, they change. Different interests. Are you respectful of the interest? Are you committed enough to the relationship to say, that's great, you want to go off do a 5 months retreat? Can I buy you a new sleeping bag? Like that's what my last boyfriend did for me before I was a nun. I don't have relationships, but very moving that. Like, let me help support you in retreat. And then he was able to come over at the end, and we went to all these incredible teachings and had a great time. Beautiful, so that would be a neat way to do it, rather than you want to go out with your friends Friday night? Well, I wanted to do something Friday night. I don't like you hanging out with your friends. I want this, I need this. Really to have a good relationship, I think you have to not need, right? It's a place you could start like that, so thank you. Yes, please.
Yes. When the kids go to college, it's very hard. It's an attachment.
Yes.
A very hard attachment.
The empty nester.
What do you recommend? What meditation or?
You're not going to hear my song at the end, but that's okay because I know we're out of time. So go ahead. When empty nesters, when your kids go to college, and suddenly, you know, there's kind of your role and there is the space in the house. It is, again, a normal thing, because what happens when you lose somebody? What happens when somebody dies? This happens to us. It's very sad. It's not that you're not sad, you just acknowledge your sadness. There's some grief. Every phase of life, there's a little bit of grief in the letting go into the new room. Like whether from, I remember missing my niece and nephews with the 3s and 4s. That's like, I love that age. When kids are 3 and 4, they're kind of edible, right? And then it changes, and then when they're 14, they're entirely different, right? Oh my goodness, teenagers. So just acknowledging the different phases and how, isn't it kind of cool of them going off to be adults, to be independent, as we did. It was an exciting time of life. You know? And then some people might take up some other activities because they don't have all the space of having to deal with their kids. You have some freedom, but I would also allow myself to acknowledge the space can be scary, lonely, what's going on for me in that space, but suddenly you might have more time to meditate, help the center, help the group, or things like that. So just a normal phase of life, basically. Like that. I'm dealing right now with an elderly dad who's 89, he's still independent, but I watch every year the decline. And it's just a phase of life. So we're in the phase now of getting him to use his cane. I'm going to get him a scooter. Try to get him one of, you know, I think his insurance covers it to just, it's the next phase. So he's resisting a little bit, but he's also, on the verse, it's another phase. So it's uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable to see him struggling and going, I don't need that. I don't need to do that. He still sees himself as a strong man. And okay. But these are just phases. So sometimes I acknowledge the pain, and the pain I go through, trying to support him, the pain I feel, pain he encounters. So maybe just one or two more questions. You have your hand, yeah.
So, on the attachment and like your view of kind of this new age type of relationship that we should have with, you know, other human beings.
It's old age, my dear.
Yeah.
It's old age. I mean, it sounds like a new age thing, but this is from the Buddha. This is like about reason and you know, let's wake up to our minds. And can I really do it with love, right? Meaning, can I really come into a relationship with wanting the other to be happy but it really came from the Buddha. It's really an old thing. But now I think some new age things got in touch with that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, it's fine. What I have a hard time with is, say like, my parents are still together, so I come from, you know, being bred to, you know, you make things work, and I come from kind of that, like, you complete each other. But as I've kind of evolved and gone through things with relationships, and I've come to this place where I've realized, you know, humans try to complete each other. You know, you try to fill those holes, and you think that you can complete each other, and but really, like you're saying, you have to be in complete happiness with yourself to come into complete unison in happiness with another being. I don't know if this really makes a lot of sense.
Well, the one thing I would just interrupt for a second. You can't you can't get yourself into complete happiness until you're a Buddha. So to say you're not going to have a relationship till you're a Buddha, I think that's painful for a lot of people, okay? So the first thing is, once again, as I mentioned before, you're never going to have it completely together. That's where you operate from. However, if I can become as whole as I can be, you're going to attract people like that. Okay, when you have a lot of holes in you, that's who you attract. So the better I can work on myself and do stuff, for me, that's how it worked. The better I got, the better people I attracted. So it's not that they're completing you, but isn't it cool when two kind of bigger holes come together? Then you get a bigger, and you do kind of complete each other. You enhance each other. That's the beauty, that could be the beauty of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think where I was trying to go with my difficulty is dealing with, say, for example, those girlfriends that have those problems and all of those things, the drama that you hear, like you were saying, that you're like, okay, I can't let this energy permeate, but it's what I used to be. But now that I've evolved as myself, actually past some of my friends, many of my friends, I've got a whole new way of looking at things. I mean, this goes into like twin flame type unison, I don't know, Buddhism like goes there at all, twin flame and all of that
I
stuff.
don't know that. I
Okay.
don't know that.
But
The immortal flame? No, not
almost
that.
like, you know, where you begin as a soul and you're pure, like your one pure energy soul match, where you feel that like just 100% respect, 100% love, and you know, no matter whether you don't even have the connection. So it's hard for me to teeter back and forth between this, exactly what you're talking about, and how I believe relationships should be, and also that world of where I maybe used to be when I was younger, or the way even adults around me are conducting their relationships. Like, you know, it's always a constant teeter.
So we don't have this idea of the one soul. I mean, I think it's limiting to think there's just one soul. It doesn't mean you don't marry one person, but it'd be kind of neat for me, and I see the way His Holiness the Dalai Lama relates to people. Now, he's celibate like me, and he's a monk, but how each person he greets, first of all, there's presence. There's unbelievable presence with you every moment, and then you get this sense like he's your best friend in a moment. So I love that experience of trying to embrace all of you with that space of my mind, that there's no real differentiation. I have a unique relationship with each of you. I'll put it this way, that potential's there. Now, some people you're gonna have a little bit more intimacy with. Some people you might marry. Some people you might, no problem. But that potential's always there for my heart to remain expanded, rather than being on this quest for this one person that's going to be. I think we set ourselves up too much for that. That's just not possible. I was totally set up for that in life. You're going to meet this one person, and and it just seems so defeating somehow, because everybody had certain flaws, different interests, and I think it's too much pressure. So that world is like that. When you're new in the Dharma and you don't have a lot of Dharma friends yet, it's hard as we start to emerge and walk out of that room and those influences. And for me, the friends that stuck with me, we ended up, once we got past that, because there's a lot of judgment. People were like, you don't like us anymore. You don't want to go to the bar anymore. You know, you're just, and initially I maybe would judge, and then they would judge me. But once you get past all that, the people that stuck with me, they're not Buddhists. We just support each other in our paths. They're very happy with what I'm doing. One of my friends, her spiritual practice is bicycle riding, seriously. She goes on these bike trips, Napa Valley, she gets a group of people, they ride 30 miles a day. I love that she does that. We connect on traveling, because I'm teaching around the world. She's always like, oh, what's it like there? We're thinking of going there for a holiday, she and her husband. And she's not a Buddhist, she's not. So this way you find some things in common, with these people, but not to get too mired down with them. And through groups like this, you can cultivate some other friends that share those ideas. And I think for you, just being who you are sets an example for them, and it gets their attention. If they see that you're not so subjected to the drama, but you're interested in the Dharma as opposed to the drama, right? But because the drama gets tiring after a while, but there's some people that thrive on it, it's their mode of being. And it's like I have some people in my life like that, and less and less because I'm just like, and I wouldn't react anymore. They'd be like, oh my God, and I'd be like, well, yeah, that's what happens to people. Like, what's the big deal? Why are you so, and then they would see that they didn't get fed, and the thing, you can feed dramas like that, or you can kind of be like, I don't know, it doesn't seem to really be contributing to your happiness, or you don't seem that happy with. So those are ways, it's hard in that phase to turn that corner, and you're kind of putting your foot out on some kind of glass pedestals that are going to support me, or, like that. I think it's a good question, yeah. And one last question back here.
What happens when there's completely detachment, like the opposite of attachment? It seems like a very lonely place, because you feel like you are not attached to anything, really. Like you are not attached to a person. I'm not talking like that.
Yes, that's a great question.
But like really, from a sincere.
Yes, so we're not talking about a totally numb, devoid thing in detachment. But again, I look at it more on the positive thing of like the possibility of having this, really wishing all of you to be happy. I'm not just focusing on all my friends, on a few people here. I don't just have that. So it's actually a bigger space of heart
But it seems like a very lonely place because
It's completely the opposite.
But it seems like you don't really love anybody. Like you are okay with everything. Like if the car goes, you are like fine.
No, but the thing is, you're dealing with the situation from a very realistic perspective of what to do without it disturbing the clear open space of my mind. So my car broke down. Did I have a bad time? No, actually, in some ways it was better, I think, you know. And now whoever drives me home tonight, because I was going to drive myself, well, I get to kind of talk to them and we can spend a little bit of time and that'll be nice. And so it's more of like, there's always a more positive perspective to look at it from. But with attachment, it's my kid, my car. Very constrictive. I find that a very lonely, miserable place. When it's more like somebody damaged my car, it was an accident, fender bender, clearly it was their fault. I have no, they even got out and said I wasn't like, well, here I have an opportunity to have a relationship with them, have a healthy relationship with them. Or I can get out of my car screaming at them. Why? Because I'm attached to my car. And you can be late for an appointment, you can be late for a meeting, late for a job interview, all that stuff, but stuff like this happens all the time. What's going to be my attitude? Open, spacious, or a constricted little miserable suffering me? Mm-hmm. So for me, I find it the antithesis of being lonely, true detachment. And we don't necessarily look at it as detachment so much as having that equal balance in regard, in my mind, that open, spacious luminosity. And really love that wanting others to be happy. If you can just so much motivate, if you can leave here tonight and just take that thought with you of just trying to wish others on the roadway, may you be happy. May you be happy. Just may you have all the causes of happiness. Like, why not? You're having a challenging person, show them. Just in my mind, I'd be at meetings, sometimes business meetings, with the jerk at work. I mean, a guy that I was just like, God, unbelievable egomaniac. But I could just sit at the meeting and watch my irritation rise and be like, may you be happy. I could send these wishes to him, and I could. Okay, just slowly, because it was better than just getting caught up in my irritation, which would just end up fueling anger. And all anger does is separate me from him. He is other. But so slowly, just because I wanted him to be happy, because then I knew he wouldn't be such an egomaniac. So really, if you can get that love cascading. I just have to play this. I had to do that. I wanted to do this in one of the courses. Sorry. Let's see. Wait. I think I just messed it up. Oh no. Wait. Come on. Of course, it's not playing now.
Be close to the microphone.
Sorry, now I don't know how to turn it off. Anyway, I really want to thank you. I know there's a lot more we could do here tonight, so I'm sorry it's so short. I'm sorry I went over. Love has everything to do with it, basically. Love is really the answer. It's the solution for everything. Okay, when you can keep things in that space. Is our love going to be tainted a little bit and mixed with attachment? As human beings, of course it is. So in that process, please love yourself, meaning just accepting that I make mistakes. I've run a couple of centers. I'm a Buddhist nun. I still get angry. I still have attachment. I fall flat on my face and make mistakes in poor decisions I made at the center, and I pick myself back up. Why? Because there's suffering, living beings that need your help. That's my responsibility. I want to help people. I have to keep moving forward. Spiritual practice, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So you're doing the dance and you keep moving forward. Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much. Thank you for coming, spending this time. Thank you for your great effort. I'd like to dedicate any positive energy, we always do that at the end as well, to helping us reach our potential, our highest potential as humans, which is to become a fully enlightened being, to become a Buddha, because then we're completely unlimited in helping others and have manifest in infinite loving kindness, compassion, and wisdom. Okay? I'd like to dedicate to all the beings on the planet who need additional healing. May they receive it immediately, and for peace in all world systems, and may we have more enlightened energy as a leader in our country this November. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
I'm back here next Tuesday and teaching on emptiness, very profound part of the philosophy. And I'm also in Deerfield Beach at Tutankunga Center through the 20th of April.
If you want any information on Deerfield Beach, we have